Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am Mayor Cal Sheehy, and I welcome you to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm joined by our City Manager.
Merry Friday.
Thank you all for being here. What we'll do is we'll go through our normal update that's going on in the city since we last met last month, and then we'll take any questions on any of the topics that we brought up or anything that might be on your mind that we can answer for you. So we'll start with a familiar favorite, which is the announcement of Allo Communications. They had announced a $50 million investment in broadband technology to Lake Havasu City. They specialize in rural communities, mostly in Colorado and Nebraska, and I got that backwards. It's really Nebraska and Colorado is their way, and then into Arizona. We were the first community. What that's going to do is it's going to bring in broadband fiber networks to the home and business for Lake Havasu City, in addition to telephone services and also television and telephone services. So believe it or not, out of the three things they're providing, broadband, telephone, and television, telephone is the only thing that's regulated by the state. And so they have had some snags at the Arizona Corporation Commission, but they do have a hearing at the end of this month to get in front of the Arizona Corporation Commission to get final approval to put in the telephone wires. Allo will be doing their network installation along the Unisource network, so they'll be using the Unisource poles to do that for the majority of the work. They expect in 18 to 24 months the entire community to be connected. What I love so much about Allo's investment is, one, it's a private investment of $50 million, and two, it's going to increase speeds that we have never seen before in Lake Havasu City with consistency and reliability. And our citizens deserve reliable, high-speed connectivity in our community. We pay a lot of money, and we deserve to have that technology. As we increase the competition, we also will ensure that prices start to go down and subside with all of the carriers. And the other carriers that might not be providing very good customer service today will start providing better customer service and reliability on their networks as well. So very, very excited about Allo and their introduction to our community. You actually can see Allo trucks that are moving throughout the city right now. What they are doing is they're mapping out what that network's going to look like. They also have a retail center located on McCulloch Boulevard next to Planet Fitness. So you can go in there and sign up for the waiting list or find out where you're going to be as soon as those doors open to the public. But good things are coming on that front. We invite other broadband companies to come to Lake Havasu City as well. The more the merrier. It'll help increase, again, competition, drive up service for our community, and drive down costs. So I think I hit all the hot topics. I don't know if there's anything else on that, Chess.
No, you hit all the topics on that too. I think maybe just to reiterate, $50 million investment from Allo Communications in Lake Havasu City. No subsidy, no taxpayer dollars were part of that deal to bring them to Lake Havasu City. They're also looking at Kingman and Yuma, and in both of those areas, there was a taxpayer subsidy that was provided in one form or fashion to bring them to their community. So we're very proud of them coming to Havasu, and very proud that they're doing it on their own dime.
And we'd love to take credit for that we didn't have to do a subsidy, but you all have been paying the price for that. So you guys are a ripe group of potential customers that are necessary to make their network provide. So again, we're excited to have Allo and really have options for our citizens. We have some great carriers already in Lake Havasu City. We have some not so great carriers already in Lake Havasu City. And now we'll have an additional option for our citizens to have. Next item is Sarah Park. Over the last couple of weeks, the City Council accepted a patent from the BLM on Sarah Park. So for many, many years, Sarah Park has been a great outdoor recreational park area for our citizens. At one point operated by the county, and then most recently operated by the city for the last couple of decades. But it always was the land of BLM. And so we were under their permission of BLM to be able to do that. And this patent gives us some additional comfort and reliability that our investments in Sarah Park will continue for generations to come. Just if you want to talk maybe about the patent process and what that looks like.
Yeah, so it's a very long process. So the city started this process 10 plus years ago. And you go through an application process, and then BLM, it intentionally makes it a prolonged process. The intention here is to go from a leased property that was up until just last week to now the city maintains or owns the patent for the property. Is how the Bureau of Land Management declares that process. Very similar to what you see in Rotary Park. That's a BLM where the city leased that property, went through a patent process, and now is used for recreational purposes. what you see in terms of amenities and the different clubs and different aspects at Sarah Park that'll continue, that won't change. But with the city having that patent ensures that what happens at Sarah Park will continue for generations to come. So that's very important. The restrictions on that patent is that we can't go build houses and hotels and whatever else too. It's got to be an open space, recreation, all the things that we enjoy about Sarah Park right now. So that's tied to our patent with BLM.
Yeah, so really excited to be able to have that finished. As just mentioned, it's been 10 years that we've been working on that process. We'd like to thank the local field office for all of their consistent work and focus on this. Without their determination, we would not be able to have that happen. Miss Aarons is the real estate person at the local BLM office who really drove that forward. And then Jason West is our local field manager, and we thank them for doing that. And an additional partnership that we have with BLM out at Sarah Park is the trailheads. You may have noticed if you're a hiker and use the Sarah Park trailhead that some additional signage has been installed by the fire department over the last year, really just to identify what the hazards are if you're going to go on a hike. A lot of people come visit or bring family from the Midwest or the East Coast and they want to hike our beautiful desert landscape, which is fantastic. We love to do that as well. But it's just a little bit different to hike out west than it is in some other areas. And so these signage talk about the heat index, talk about the amount of water you should take with you, some of the best practices to let people know when to expect you home, where you're going, what route, so that if something were unfortunate to happen, we could get to you in a really quick manner. So those signs have already erected, but with a new partnership, we'll be identifying the trail markers and the trails that are out there at Sarah Park. Currently, it's a bit haphazard the way that the trails are marked, and you don't know if you're on the blue one or the red one or the yellow one. Sometimes they cross over and you don't know which one you're on. But this will allow you, one, to have a clear path on what you're hiking and to stay on those trails to keep the area in nice condition, but also will allow you to identify where you're at if, again, you find yourself in unfortunate circumstances and you need to call EMS to come find you or locate you. I know, Jess, you're working with your team to coordinate that effort.
Special thanks to our fire department. Tony Ravello was a retired captain with Lake Havasu City, just retired a couple months ago, and he's helping out with that project. He knows those trails very well, and he's out there almost on a daily basis, so appreciate his assistance and his volunteer efforts. But I think it was last summer or 2 summers back, we had some visitors from, I think it was Iowa, and they went hiking on that area in the middle of the summer, and there was a teenage girl that went out there, did not have enough water. She perished, she died, because she was stuck in a situation where she got too far away, got lost on the trail system, didn't bring enough water, and we do rescues all the time out there. By the way, it's not in our municipal boundary, so we're doing something outside of our boundary, but it's a service to our residents, so it makes a lot of sense. But working with our fire and our parks professionals with BLM, and the idea there is so that when you're out there on the trail, you have some idea of how far away is that parking lot. Which direction is that parking lot, so you don't get lost. You have an idea of the water it takes to get out there. So I think it also, from a recreational standpoint too, will help you in terms of trying to measure your distance that you travel and the different trails that will be marked out there. So that'll be a nice one.
Excellent. And so since last time we met, we also have, before council, have started the motion to purchase some new boats. We're doing that with SLIF funds, and that's State Lake Improvement Funds, and we're so excited to be able to have those funds again through the leadership of Representative Biasucci, Senator Borelli, and Representative Cobb. We've been able to bring back SLIF funds from the state. These were funds that were intended to go to areas to improve lake areas across the state of Arizona using the gas tax that's paid at the pumps for boats. And so during the mid-2000s, the state swept those funds and basically took that program away. But one of the easiest ways to identify why SLIF is important and why it matters to you is if you're a boater or have been on a boat or have toured or camp along our shores, you look on the Arizona side and you'll see improvements. So restrooms, campsites, garbage cans, all of those types of things. You look on the California side and you see nothing. And so that's the stark difference between what SLIF funds do in our community. But it also helps pay for fire, police boats, and the like. And so again, we're really excited that SLIF funds came back. We were granted nearly $800,000 in SLIF funds. And just if you want to talk about the particulars of these boats and some of the ways we're spending that money this year.
Yeah, so it was 2 boats that were purchased, one for police, one for fire. Both they're called Pac-Man is the the brand is either the manufacturer or the design, which basically just allows for the front of the boat to come down. Very helpful in terms of water rescue for fire, and very helpful for those that dive on the dive team on the police side. Allo also allowed us to spend some money on some motor replacements for some of our existing aging boats, and it's going to be a real nice thing, especially on the fire side. Every year, the fire chief comes to me and says we need to spend another $20,000, $30,000 on an old aging boat that's not doing what it's supposed to do. So it'd be nice to have something on the water that allow us to do the rescues and maintain peace in the community.
Yeah, there's an additional bill in the legislature this year to ensure that we could have those SLIP funds going forward again. So again, a big thank you to our legislative support here in Mojave County with Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci. We also have actually coming up in our next council meeting, is that the landfill?
Yes.
Okay, sometimes I get lost of where we're at on all the conversations. Yeah. Do we see it? Do we not yet? But so many years ago, we had regular trash cans, like anyone else had. And then all of a sudden, we had these big blue bins that came in. Now they seem commonplace, but at the time, it was pretty controversial. Not a lot of people wanted to bring in those big garbage cans into our community. And there was a few reasons why we looked at doing that and what that made sense for. One is to just keep trash out of our neighborhoods. So everyone had a different type of trash can that didn't always have a lid on it, or they might just put a bag of trash outside at the end of their driveway, and animals would get into it at the end of the night or in the middle of the night, and trash would just be all over our community. That was one reason. The second reason was at the time, Republic Services, who provides our services here in our community, our trash removal services, was looking at upgrading their fleet. And when they upgrade their fleet, if they could put in these hydraulic systems that could lift up these trash cans and throw it into the trash bin, it would help with their cost. Workman's comp, it would also help them attract better talent, those types of things. And then the third reason, and most importantly, is our landfill. Lake Havasu City has just one landfill, and it was starting to become full, and that was a problem. So we embarked on a landfill study to take a look at what that might look like to ensure the life of it, but what would we have to do to close the landfill? Because there's a lot of EPA and ADEQ regulations to close the landfill, and then what do you do with it otherwise? So where would the next landfill be? We don't have any more land in Lake Havasu City that would be identified for that. So we were able to negotiate a contract with Republic Services where our trash price increased by 67 cents. So 67 cents a month, we were able to do that, get a whole new fleet of vehicles. What the new fleet of vehicles allowed to do is, I don't know if you know this, but your garbage truck that comes through your neighborhood on garbage day comes through first and picks up the trash. They then take that out to the landfill. That same driver comes back to your neighborhood, runs the route a second time, and picks up all of your recycling material. Why that's important is now you have the same driver in your neighborhood that's familiar with your neighborhood. They're familiar with the animals that might be in your neighborhood, the children that might be in your neighborhood. They're able to check on folks that, if Mrs. Smith normally is at the end of the driveway waiting for you to pick up her can and take it back up to the house, and you don't see her for a week or two, it allows some of those safety measures built in to our trash pickup and makes, obviously, for a better community. We then take the recycling out to a truck, and it's transferred up to a state-of-the-art recycling facility in Las Vegas. And so what that has done is our recycling increased, was it 300%, Jess? Yeah. So from the small little blue bins we used to have, and some of us had 2 or 3 of them, we'd order extras, our recycling capacity increased by 300%. What that means on the other side is 300% less refuse was going into our landfill, thus expanding the lifespan of our landfill. And so we've been able to expand the lifespan. At the time, we were talking 7 to 9 years. And this was, again, 2016. And now it's about 30 to 35 years?
30 to 40 years.
30 to 40 years, even better. So the cost savings to our citizens is immense. And it was actually a really good program to move forward. But what we're going to be seeing now is on the landfill is expansion of what that looks like as part of what that landfill study was those several years ago. And so, Jess, if you want to talk maybe some of the particulars of what the council will be seeing and discussing.
Yeah. So we, on the council meeting is going to be an agreement with it's Allied Waste, otherwise known as Republic Services here locally, for them to utilize some city-owned property on that area so they can put some monitoring wells out in that area, which is required by the state, by ADEQ, to ensure that the expansion of that landfill is done so in a proper way, that whatever's happening at that landfill is not getting into the water supply or causing other concerns that are out there too. So the expansion is a good thing. We were in a meeting talking about this for the first time earlier this week, and the mayor asked me, what are we talking about here? Is this going to be Trash Mountain? What's going to be the impacts of this landfill? Because we're talking about the expansion. The expansion is vertical, not horizontal. But we researched and reaffirmed, and we're talking about, like, over the course of the next 20, 30 years, was it 30 feet, I think it was, increase in that landfill area based on that closure. So, but yeah.
Yeah, all I could think about was if you are familiar with the Chicagoland area, you'll see different garbage what are they, landfills?
Landfills, dumps.
That are big mountains now throughout the Chicagoland area. Denver is another area that has those same things. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think we've ever talked about having Garbage Mountain in Lake Havasu City. So glad to be assured that we're not having Garbage Mountain, but we still will have some vertical expansion of the landfill.
And that the expansion of the landfill and the increased recycling means that less going into the landfill is good news in terms of the life of that landfill. But then allowed us to sit down with Public Services and negotiate a contract just a couple years ago, and with them having that business model that's going to be there for the next 30, 40 years. Then we can hold them accountable, responsible at the back end for the closure of that landfill. When you close a landfill, there's a whole lot of paperwork and a whole lot of money that's tied to it, several $1 million. So we're able to, through that agreement, allow them to operate that landfill as long as it's done properly and done the right way, and there's measures in there for fees and things of that nature as well too. But they are 100% responsible for the closure of that landfill at the end of the day, and we're able to do that because of the increased life of that landfill.
Yeah, so very exciting on that front. We don't always like to talk trash, but it's important to us because it costs us a lot of money. Next item on our list to give you an update on is our housing study, the Partnership for Economic Development, which is contracted through Lake Havasu City to provide economic development services to our community based on the contract. Recently attended our council meeting and gave an update on what they've been doing. They talked about some job expansion and attraction efforts, site selection of folks that are looking to relocate their business or bring their business to our community. And then they also talked about housing study. And you may have read about this in the paper in the last week or so. And what the housing study is going to do is it's no surprise to any of us that we are lacking in housing inventory and attainable or affordable housing options for our citizens. And so we're trying to identify what that looks like. And now this isn't new. We've always had this on our horizon going all the way back to the America's Best Community competition that Lake Havasu City won a $2 million grand prize in. We talked about demographic starvation and how do we ensure that we can lower the age of our citizens so that we have a sustainable economy, that we have balance where we can take care of our citizens that are enjoying this community to retire, as well as our citizens that are the youngest that are just laying down their roots to build their family and foundation here. And so we've always been focused on it. We were working on it prior to the pandemic, and then the pandemic just exacerbated it, not only in Lake Havasu City, but across the state and across the country. And so it's a challenge. There's really no other place where you can now sell your house here high and then move somewhere else low. And that was what happened a lot. That's what just happens as part of natural progression of an economy because everywhere in the country is high at this point. So it just makes it very difficult. And so how do we ensure that we have housing futures for our citizens, and what does that look like? And the city's role in that is very difficult because we don't build housing. We aren't landlords. That's not the role that we have, but we do have a role. And so our role has been convening folks to the table from the building community, the finance community, from the just general interest community that will champion something like this. And those efforts have just not been very successful. Not because there's not a want or a demand or a need, it's just the costs are so high of building materials, or it's hard to get staff here. We haven't been able to get all those together, although there are some really great nuggets that are moving in the housing area. So we do have some things that are working in the county. We have some apartment homes going in. We have some of those, but it's just not enough. When I was speaking to the director of the Arizona Department of Housing, Tom Simblot, he is telling me in rural Arizona, again, this is rural Arizona, so across the entire state, we're about 150,000 housing units short. 150,000 units short. It's a huge, huge number. And so we need to be able to identify what the housing study looks like. And so PED is taking that lead, and they're going to take a look at all of the vacant land we have in Lake Havasu City. They're going to expand into the county as well because there will be some growth as you head north into the county, and take a look at what that underlining zoning is, what can be built in there, and then what the feasibility of that is. And piles all these pieces together and it gives us this document. This document then developers or builders can take to finance folks and they can finance it. So, when you come to Lake Havasu City, we know this place. We live here, we love it, we know that it's going to be successful. But somebody in New York on Wall Street looking at or hearing our pleas, they don't care. They need something that shows it with data. And so this data will provide that for us. I know you were at that meeting that we had the update from the PED, and I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on what the housing study will do for us.
Yeah, and Councilmember Cameron Moses is the liaison for the Partnership for Economic Development, and he's part of those efforts as well too. And we'll be working real closely with the PED on trying to do the best we can. I mean, how many times we talk to people in the community and the people that we know and care for, or just people that we have conversations with, or they're in a situation where the owner of their rental is selling it and turning it into a short-term rental, and pushing that person out of that space. Well, then that's one less rental in the inventory on the market. So it's harder for that individual then to go try and seek out and try to find another rental that's out there. A lot of residents that lived here for many years have rented for that entire time that now are finding themselves in a really difficult spot. So it's a top, if not the number one issue for Lake Havasu City. Puts us in a difficult spot as a city. What do we do? Do you want the city to go build housing and subsidize the housing and be the landlord? That's just not something that the cities are involved in to any great degree. So we're having conversations with the developers and the investors and trying to do what we can to bring a quality product to Lake Havasu City that would expand that inventory. And maybe it's conversations through this study with the Partnership for Economic Development with the county, and maybe some of that housing inventory has to take place just outside the boundaries of Lake Havasu City. If you take a look at the total number of lots in Lake Havasu City, we're about 95% built out. When you go on Zillow or take a look at some of the vacant properties, the vacant lots that are out there, they're selling for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for dirt. Now there's a need for a builder and all the rest. The reason why they're so high is because there's so few left in Havasu. We're surrounded by the Colorado River, right, and by BLM. So our ability to expand into new areas and encourage additional growth, there's just that's very limited. So Havasu is in a very unique situation. We're locked in, right? We can't expand our boundaries in any way, but we are struggling with this affordability of housing issue that needs to be resolved with efforts with this study. It should hopefully give us a game plan or some options moving forward. If nothing else, we can show like, hey, there's a need in Havasu for the builders, investors to come and bring what's sorely needed.
Yeah, and so some of the roles that Lake Havasu City has is we can make sure that the process is easy. So if you're going to build in Lake Havasu City,
yes,
we can make sure the permitting process is easy. We can make sure that the inspection process is easy. We can make sure that we can usher that in for you. We even go to the extremes that if there's a commercial property or something that might be a big box similar to something that's been built in other communities, where we'll even contract that out for other people to do plan checks so we can get those plans turned around quickly. And we have a rate that we should be very proud of turning around our plans. It's under 2 weeks, is it, for residential?
For residential. I mean, we're turning around plans very quickly. You look at some of the other issues that they're talking about statewide, and some of these, the bills that are running through the legislature are aimed at trying to, at some of the cities that have this lengthy permitting process that takes several months or whatever else too. In Havasu, we're turning around plans in days and weeks, not months, and so that's important for us to be responsive to the community and get out of the way and let those things occur.
And so we'll continue to do that, make it easy to do business with us so that you can build that product or get your home built or get that on the market. So another area that we can focus on, and you might have read a little bit in the newspaper, and I think we talked about it last month when we were together, is the downtown density. Since we've been together, the Planning and Zoning Commission has talked about downtown density and what that looks like. Just to define downtown, that would be the area of Acoma to Smoke Tree, Mesquite to Swanson, so that corridor has been developed and is identified in our general plan and zoning as high-density residential and or commercial, I guess if you depend into the commercial lots. But the area was to have high-density residential to make the downtown more successful with people walking in that area and using the shops and eateries and all of those types of things in that area. And so now that the land is becoming so scarce and we only have a few last opportunities to ensure that that land is used in the most beneficial way for our community. We had the Planning and Zoning Commission talk about that. The council will talk about that. But it's identifying what densities should be in the downtown. Should those buildings be two-story? Should they be multifamily and all of those types of things? One of the areas that you can see this the most is if you look on Swanson, you see the Views, which is a large building, dropping down to Hidden Palms, which is a two-story resort hotel, dropping into tiny homes, jumping back up to like a three-story home product, and then continuing on. So is that what we want, or do we want to ensure that we have the density where we have that walkable downtown and ensure that we have housing availability? So that's what we're taking a look at. Planning and Zoning gave staff some great feedback. Staff is putting together a presentation and some ideas to bring forward to council to ensure that we can protect those downtown densities. Another area that we've protected recently, although a little too late, but we did it, was the corridors coming into Lake Havasu City to ensure that you don't come in over the hill looking at all of the storage units all of the time. And so, again, there's tons of storage units, and people love them, and people need them, and they're all sold out, and we need more of them, so I'm not trying to suggest otherwise. But we do hear overwhelmingly from citizens that they just don't want it to be a storage unit corridor as you go down Highway 95. And so we've been able to protect those going forward by taking storage units out of the C2 designation. And again, storage units still can be built, but those few areas that are left on Highway 95 now would have to go through a conversation before that would just occur going forward. So these are some of the challenges that we're addressing and fixing as we have this infill as we go down the final stretch of the developing Lake Havasu City. And when I say the final stretch, it's like a 40-year stretch. So it's not like we're in the next couple of years, but long term when we talk city government. Do you want to transition over to road work and our meeting with the ADOT?
Sure. We can start with ADOT, and then we had Highway 95 as a topic to discuss, and then we have some local road projects that started this week as well too. Beginning with Highway 95, we've spoken about this project several times at the previous coffees, and we were very, very thankful for Representative Leah Biasucci leading the way and the support coming from Senator Borelli and Representative Cobb as well to bring $26 million for the improvement of Highway 95 to the area. That was $26 million would cover from Sarah Park all the way out to I-40. So they did their job. They put the money on the table, gave it to ADOT, and said, "Okay, no, go get it done." And I think at the last coffee we talked about their unwillingness to get into the intersections of some of the crossroads. So go look at all the crossroads on 95. There's where the crosswalk exists. You're seeing some really old pavement from 20 plus years old that's crumbling. It's going to be dirt before too long. And ADOT even this time around says, well, we don't want to touch that. We just want to go curb to curb and not get into the intersections. Because then if we do that, then it's going to cost more money for ADA ramps and all this other things. It's like, no, that's what the money was set aside for. We need Highway 95 to be constructed in a way that's going to give us 15 years worth of life and do it right. Don't skip over these things. And they come back and say, well, it's over budget, and we don't have enough money for the entire area, so we're going to have to skimp and just do something really light across the entire area. So we then said, okay, who's your boss? And then Mayor, myself, Anthony Kozlowski in my office, and then we were joined by Representative Biasucci and Representative Cobb. We went to ADOT and said, here's what we need. We need these intersections completed. We need you to start at Sarah Park and start traveling north until the money is all gone. And then we had some from our leadership at the state also say that maybe there's some additional dollars that they can get to finish the project through the county area. So we're working very, very hard on holding ADOT accountable and doing what they should be doing, and which was the intention of the dollars that were originally funded for the project. But yeah, I took a trip to Phoenix and knocking on their door a little bit to wiggle that project loose a little bit. So.
Yeah, it was time well spent. And when we were here last month, we told you we were going to head down there and do that. And again, the outcome has been beneficial. We will get those intersections done. You know, Jess jokes and says, just go down and take a look. You don't have to take a look. You feel it when you go to the intersection. There's nothing you need to do. So all of those intersections are just horrible. And it needs to be done correctly. As he alluded, we said, start at Sarah Park and go through the highest trafficked area, which is obviously like Havasu City. So basically Sarah Park to the airport with that resurfacing. Take a break in some of that county land, which the asphalt is in an all right condition, but save a little bit of money to get to the I-40 corridor, because you might lose a car in one of those potholes up there by Pilot or Loves. So we are working on all of those efforts and making sure that the money is what is intended for. So this is general fund appropriation from the state through legislative action. Your elected leaders made sure that this is what the money was set for. So Representative Biasucci and Representative Cobb and Senator Borelli led that charge, and our elected folks said that's where it needs to go. So that's where it needs to go, and let's make sure that that happens, and that was the basis of our conversation. So. Then on some of the local road projects, we, in our last council meeting, or 2 council meetings ago, the residential estates area, so basically the areas around the golf course, have been around since day one, and they have always been on sewer. So that area, along with the initial tract of homes like along Smoke Tree and into like the Swanson area, has been on sewer since day one, when like Havasu City became a community, long before we even incorporated. And so the residential estates did not have to go through the sewer project that the rest of the community went through from basically 2002 to 2010. They didn't have to go through that, but that also meant that their roads didn't get redone. So their roads are 50 years old. And if you've driven through some of those roads in the residential estates by the golf course, they're in really poor condition. So Jess and his team have come up with an idea that seems to be affordable and seems to be a good solution to address that. They're in the process of doing it now, and I'm hearing really great feedback from citizens. I don't know, Jess, if you want to maybe talk about what that process is or the product that we're using.
Yeah, so it's real similar to kind of a chip seal process, and we talk about there's different recipes, different ways of roads, right? And you see the difference between like a chip seal product, which costs the city about $2.20 a square yard. You see what happened on McCulloch on that beautiful road? We spent some extra money there too. That cost us $35 per square yard. So just the difference in the cost of some of these road products. So we get that question a lot. It's like, well, that's a great road in the downtown. Just do that everywhere. Well, we're going to need some more help from Representative Biasucci for that one. No. But I've challenged the team, and Bill Young, Greg Frosley, and our Public Works Department are stepping up and trying to come up with some different solutions. Give me a product or an approach that's better than chip seal, but not as expensive as what we're seeing in the downtown. So some of these things we're going to try, and in the residential estates area, we're going to do a mill, which we're going to take out a portion of the asphalt, then come back over with the chip seal, and we're going to try it in that area and see how that works. Also this week is we're out there with the fog seal, which is that nice black road at the end of the day that you see. It provides a little bit of maintenance and extends the life of the road, and then people love it because it's got that black look at the end of the day. So we're doing that in this week, and then in the next couple weeks we'll be doing out there in the community doing our not citywide, but our big annual program with chip seal. But rest assured, again, we're having conversations about other products that are out there. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut, like within the city over the course of time, and just kind of do the same thing over and over again. So now we're challenging ourselves to come up with maybe a different way of doing things, and so we'll investigate that. But we need to touch these roads every single year. We need to maintain them. You drive to other communities, some of our neighbors in the county. You drive through some of their neighborhoods, and you have failed roads. And when you're seeing dirt, that is not a good sign. Then that's going to cost you about $100 a square yard. So it's important for us to have good roads, and we're going to try a few different things, and this is one example of one of those approaches.
Yeah, so as far as our roads and what we try to do to maintain our roads is we try to hit each road every 10 years. So about 10% of our roadways each year with some sort of treatment, either a mill and fill like we had on McCulloch in the downtown area, a chip seal or a fog seal, or some of these new technologies that are coming out there, we try and hit those roads. Great news is last year we were able to hit almost 18% of our roadways because of the cost of materials. This year, it looks like we are going to hit about 12% total in aggregate, but obviously the increased cost of fuel that we're all feeling also impacts that supply chain for the roadways and what those will look like. So we, again, try to hit all of those, but we're trying to find what that magic is. As Jess said, we use chip seal all of the time, and I was an anti-chip sealer to the end until I came on council and was in charge of having to vote for a budget, and chip seal is just the most affordable way to do it. A complete inconvenience for a couple of weeks, but it's really a great way to maintain our roadways in an affordable way as we make our way through all of the roadways that we have in our community.
Which then allows us to touch a road every 10 years.
Yes, yeah. Otherwise we'll get off track on what that looks like. So that's kind of what our road program looks like and how we do our roads. There has been discussion at the council level during our planning session that we would like to look at other ways to invest additional monies into our roads. Currently we use solely the HERF funds, which is the Highway User Revenue Fund. It's the other side of the SLIF funds that we talked about a few minutes ago. Those are the gas taxes that you pay for vehicle traffic when you pump gas at the pump. It goes to the state, they wiggle it around and take their share, and then they give the rest up to us to take care of our roadways. And so we're looking at possibly having some discussions about using general fund dollars to appropriate to roads as well, and future discussions based on conversations that the council has already had with staff during our planning session. And then you talked about the chip seal coming up?
Yeah, chip seal will be coming up in a couple weeks. I don't know the exact date, but it'll be on our website. If you go on the website too, the city's website, you'll see a map of what streets will be touched. And for those maybe living in on one of those streets, there'll be notifications that go out a couple days beforehand to let you know that they're coming. And if you have issues, let us know. We'll hold the contractor accountable for their efforts and make sure they provide a good quality product and at the least convenient or inconvenient way possible to the resident. So that's not always easy, but we had the contractor out this week with the fog seal and hearing some stories about what they're doing over and above. That fog seal, again, it's a spray treatment that provides that maintenance. So it's kind of a spray approach. And we had one guy come running out of the driveway and say, "Hey, get out of here! Don't spray this near my pavers and my beautiful driveway." So the contractor literally gets out there with a shield and starts spraying it and edging the fog seal in front of for that driveway. We can't do that for everybody, but it's good to hear that the contractor is responsive to the needs of the community. And so if there are issues, we want to hear from you and we want to hold them accountable.
On a different type of roadway project that not all of us use, but those that do use it really needed to have it done and make sure there's a little inconvenience, is the runway out at the airport. So currently at the airport, we're doing a taxiway reconstruction project. So these are the areas off of the main runway that aircraft go along to taxi to the runway or to where they're coming when they get off of it. For those of you that don't use the airport in Lake Havasu City is a huge, huge economic driver. And you do use the airport, you just don't know you do. So if you shop online, your package is coming in through FedEx, those use the airport. If you are doing blood donations, those use the airport. If we have an organ transplant donor out of our community, those use the airport. So everyone does use our airport in some way, but the economic...
We have doctors that fly in to provide services. Yeah,
like every day.
Yeah,
we have a whole doctor's offices fly in and provide the services to our citizens and then fly out at the end of the day. So yeah, so the airport is a really, really busy place. And then on top of the military aircraft that you hear in the skies above us, they're all in the neighborhood because they stop by the airport for fuel and other services. We also have state-of-the-art mechanic facilities out at the airport where people actually bring their planes to Lake Havasu City because of the expertise that our partners and FBOs have out at the airport. So it's just an amazing economic driver that not everyone knows about unless you are an aviation enthusiast or use it. But the airport used to be on the island. It was on the center of the island when Mr. McCulloch used to fly our earliest citizens in to see and showcase this beautiful community. Then in the 90s, early 90s, it moved out to the current location, which, if we think it's far now to the airport, it was so far to the airport back in those days. It was just a 2-lane road, and we had Busy Bee gas station, which is now, I think, the Circle K, and in the realty office, and that was it. There was nothing else out there. You're like, am I ever going to get there? But now it's kind of in the main central area of the community as we've grown, but the asphalt's original. And so it's failing, and we actually had to do an emergency treatment on it. Was it this year?
Yeah, just about 6 months ago, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so just had to, just so that when because when planes land, they come down pretty quick on it, and it's pretty rough. It's not the same way that you do a runway that you do a roadway. Because I already tried that trick on them, because they want to close down the airport for nearly 2 months, the runway, so that they can get this redone. The city of Scottsdale has an airport as well, and this past summer they closed down their airport, and it took 60 days to redo it, and they just closed down the operations completely for the runway. And Scottsdale's a little different, still very inconvenient, but they have other airports in a driving range. Our nearest airport would be Kingman or Bullhead City, which is relatively close, but not that close when we're talking about all of the things we talked about earlier. Doctors flying in and FedEx and the like. So we're working on ways to mitigate that and work with the airport users to ensure that we can get that runway done in a correct amount of time, and then also talk about timing. When is the best time for the users at the airport and those that do that? And we do all of this with this much control. So there's this much control, we have that much say, because the money that's doing the runway is through the FAA and ADOT. So we don't control any of the money. We have to go through their contracting process. We have to go through their procurement process, and then we want to tell them exactly how we want it done. And it just doesn't go very well. But we're trying our best, and we're making good way. We're on a conference call or a Zoom call with ADOT and the FAA talking about these challenges and what we need to do, and they seem very receptive to that. They usually bring the electeds in when they need a little bit of a hammer, so that's the part I was in. Chess and his team have been going through the painful process of the details. And
we're the nail.
Yeah, so it's been a tough process, but we're still working through it. Next week on the 9th of March, if you're interested in aviation or you know somebody that is, Damon, the airport manager, will be having I believe he calls them terminal talks.
Yeah, he calls them terminal talks. It's the talks at the airport in the terminal. It's not a hospice meeting. It's an airport meeting, but we call them terminal talks. Yeah.
So though, if you have an interest, you can attend that. Jess will be there, and we'll be able to represent and have those conversations, and we'll continue to talk that through. But again, we have some pretty tight deadlines based on the way that the monies are funded through the federal government or ADOT, and what that looks like and what their requirements are. And then we have a really strong need out there. The asphalt is literally crumbling on that runway area. So
yeah, next Wednesday, that meeting that'll take place, we have a general idea of the issues that we're dealing with. So FAA provides the money. There's a whole process there, right? So we trigger the need. They send it to DC, and then it takes a month or two before that check gets cut, before it actually goes to the contractor. This whole rigmarole that we're not used to within Havasu. So we're trying to work within those parameters, and then we want to get the users of the airport out there, the providers of all the services that you talked about earlier, and come up with the best plan that we can in terms of trying to make it as convenient as possible. Some come back and say, why don't you just close? It's a very long runway, right? Why don't you just close half that runway? But it doesn't quite work that way. But we challenge the engineers and the folks and the experts on doing something to maybe try to keep it as open as long as possible, or certainly once the work starts to get that done as quickly as possible. But a lot of challenges with airport with one runway, and you need to repair the runway. That you're talking about a closure of the airport. So.
Yeah, when Jess says it doesn't work that way to use half of the runway or not, because people really, they've been out there measuring it and telling me how many feet it is and what we can do and all of these things. You cannot have construction on an active runway of any sort. So it's not like you can just draw a line and say, okay, this part's active and this part's not. The FAA doesn't allow that. So that's why. When you actually get down to it, it seems like there might be like these really easy, common sense solutions to it, but then there might be some legislative action at the federal level or the state level that doesn't allow us to do those types of things. So because it does seem very reasonable to me. Our runway is very, very long for what the use is, but you just can't draw a line across and say this is the active and this is the non-active. So we'll get into the legislative session, and then we just have a couple other topics before we turn it over to you. So we're in the thick of the legislative session. It started in January and is going through. The bills that were introduced in either chamber have now made their process through, and there will be no additional ones introduced other than striker bills that might come about. As I told you last month, the majority of our time is spent on defense of bills, basically pushing away bills that are bad. It's not unlike those that we elect, Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci, that are doing the same thing, trying to push away bad bills. But we're really working on defense to ensure that bills that are introduced at the legislature don't have a negative impact on our citizens in Lake Havasu City. Over 85% of all Arizona residents live in a city or town, and so it's really important that we have local control on those items, and we continue to fight for that local control. Our biggest bill that we're working through, and we've talked about for 5 years together, is our short-term rental bill. This year we took a different approach, and with the leadership of Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci, a bill was introduced, but several other short-term rental bills were introduced by other legislators on both sides of what the issue looks like. So all the way from repeal the 2016 bill altogether that took away the control from cities and towns, all the way to regulation and regulatory components of what that bill might look like. So just again, as a reminder, how a bill is made into law is it has to go through the Senate, it has to go through the House, and then it also has to be signed by the governor. Governor Ducey is very favorable towards the sharing economy, which is the short-term rental market. And so we had to find something that was palatable that the governor will sign. Because if it's not palatable and the governor doesn't sign it, it doesn't matter what the legislature thinks or our citizens think until the ballot box next time and we vote somebody else in. So we now have the original bill that Representative Biasucci ran for us. There's components of it, but that bill's kind of going by the wayside, and they're coming into this new Senate bill that has some of our components built into it, and it's very, very frustrating the way that it works, but it's how the system works, and everyone has their say, and we get it, and we appreciate the process, but are frustrated by the process. But we are going to continue to work on that. One of our, the greatest thing I say about short-term rentals at this point is that we're getting a new governor next year. So the new governor, when you're vetting that person, make sure that we vet the person, that they support local control, and find out where they stand on the issues that are important to us. So what I hear the most about is short-term rentals. That's important to us. I hear about water. That's important to us. Let's talk about those issues with these people that are asking for our vote to take care of or to lead the state as the governor. That will ensure that we can have that area. The other great thing about short-term rentals is we do now have bipartisan support. So prior to this year, we didn't really have bipartisan support in the legislature, but we have folks on both sides of the aisle that know that something has to be addressed, and we have really great leaders like Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci that are part of that conversation and a part of that effort. So we now have that bipartisan support, which is good. So if we don't get exactly what we want or need this year, there's hope for next year with a new governor and that bipartisan support of the legislature.
Yeah, just as a reminder, that 2016 bill that was signed by the governor at the time says cities cannot regulate short-term rentals, and then gave us a little bit of carve out in terms of some of the small things we can do. So all the time we get people that come to the city and say, do something about it. We wish we could, but we're advocating for a change in state law to allow us to address those issues here locally. But cities shall not regulate short-term rentals. That's the law right now.
Yeah. And I was going to use this segue earlier when we were talking about housing and housing stock. A lot of times it turns to, well, don't let short-term rentals in, and then we wouldn't have a housing issue. Again, we don't have that ability to do that. So, and that's because of that law, nor would we want to. But we're just looking to allow our citizens to be able to sleep at night. That's it. So it's real basic for us. We want our citizens to be able to sleep and not have an issue when they're trying to do that. And that's really where we stand on that. With that segue, we actually are excited to have Senator Borelli with us. So I'm going to introduce my colleagues first, and then I'll bring Senator Borelli up if you want to just say hello. So my colleagues that are here, I have Vice Mayor Jim Dolan's with us. Thank you for being here. We have Councilmember Jenny Koch is with us. Good morning. Councilmember Cameron Moses. Good morning. And Councilmember Nancy Campbell is with us. Good morning. And I think I have...
Dave?
Oh, Councilmember David Lane is looking right at me this whole time. Councilmember David Lane. Yes, I was like, I know I'm missing somebody. Yeah, that's all off memory, and I had to look and scan through. So those watching at home, it's not like I had a prompter in front of me. So again, welcome to my colleagues. Thank you so much for being here. And then we also have our ASU intern is with us this morning as well. So thank you for being here. Yes. Senator Borelli, if you want to come on up, thank you so much for taking the time. Senator Borelli had a chase home last night, so the session ends on Thursday, and so late last night he gets here and makes it here first thing in the morning. So thank you, Senator Borelli.
Thanks for letting me come and speak, and thanks for inviting me to No Tie Friday. But, the mayor's right. We got out of session last night off the floor about 4:30. And of course, if you're not in the HOV by 3, forget about it. You're going to be on the freeway for another additional 2 hours coming back out here to the west coast of Arizona. So, yes, I'm glad you brought up short-term rentals. You know, we had Leo introduced a bill in the House that was one version, but you have to understand the strategy as you're trying to get things through the legislature. Every time this doesn't go far enough, so they want to kill the bill. And then one person says, this is too drastic, kill the bill. And that's what's been happening over the last few years. It doesn't go far enough, or it's too drastic, and so then nothing gets passed until it starts hitting somebody's front door. Then you start getting their attention. For example, a lot of the bad actors that are in the short-term rental industry, people meaning the residents or people visiting, having wild parties in Paradise Valley, which is where the governor lives. So now it's hitting their front door, and they're starting to scream and yell, and they want to fix. So Senator Mesnard has a bill that we passed out of committee. I'm not sure if it's passed off the floor yet. I don't know. We've got thousands of bills we're trying to get through. And of course, then the municipalities come out and go, we're against it because it doesn't go far enough. That's the problem. We got to get something incrementally. So what works today, we'll get it done, and then we'll try to get it done, fix it up next year or whatever. But this is where you're going to it is the process. You just can't just kill it because it doesn't go far enough. You got to get something. I'd rather get on that 20-yard line. It's fourth down, the clock is ticking, and I'd rather get 3 points up on the board rather than 0 because we miss our opportunity for a touchdown. So, any kind of points up on the board is, besides that, if you need to win by 1 point, 3 points, 7 points, you're just running up a score. We just need that winning point. So that's what we're trying to do. And you're right, Mayor. It is extremely frustrating, and it gets chaos down there, and it's hard to even sort it out. And every night when we get back out, off the floor, and we get back into my condo where I have to rent in Phoenix, I'm like exhausted, mentally exhausted. So, and then of course you got to regroup for the next day. But anyway, so that's one of the major priorities we're going through. We use some bills like Leo's bill as a squeeze point. If you don't get this done, we're going to jam this through. So this is the kind of things that you have to try to do to get some leverage. I mean, the same thing with the SLIF funds. Took for years. We started that fight years ago for SLIF. Started threatening to take some money out of them this way or shifting it. Then you finally get them to the table, and then you, of course, you grab, you budge, you grab, you nudge, and we finally get some results. But it is a process, and it gets very frustrating. However, so is there any questions for me? Because I can go on for 2 or 3 hours. You're already bored.
He's not lying.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a snowbird from North Dakota, but what are you under investigation for?
Huh?
I just Googled your name, sorry.
I'm under investigation?
Yeah, so the question, we are on TV, so those at home, yeah, that's fine, yeah. So there was Senator Borelli we'll have actually, Councilmember Lane will hand over a mic, but the question was, I guess we're striking that question. Okay. Yeah, any other?
He can answer it.
Yeah, do you know Senator Borelli?
I don't, it's the first I heard about it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Are you sure there's some Borellis, I'm with Borelli with 2 R's, there's Borellis with 1 R's, and some of those guys, I don't know any of them. I have no idea what you're talking about, ma'am, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
It's like I say about the internet. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. I mean, even Abe Lincoln said that. So, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read it, you're misinformed. So, and Mark Twain said that. So you got to be careful of what information that's out there. So
He's got all the one-liners. Yeah. Councilmember Lane.
Yes.
We'll bring the microphone over to you, ma'am.
So,
Well,
Hold on, we'll bring it over. We have somebody over here first.
You're up next.
Yeah.
So is there a time limit on these ADOT funds for 95 between Sarah Park and the 40? Is there a time limit on that?
That's a great question on the money that we put in the budget for ADOT to do Highway 95. Well, we sped it up, put it in the 5-year plan. So the money's in there, it's in the 5-year plan. We're putting pressure on them to get it done as fast as possible. So if you complain about the construction traffic, blame Leo. I'm kidding.
It will be inconvenient for just a few months while that happens, but yeah, we have another question in the back there.
Okay. No, I just have a question on the rental, the Airbnbs. This is one of the highest properties in the country. I've noticed it. But in 2020, I was a federal agent for the census, and I went around, and I'll have to tell you, I had great abuse from those people who were staying in the Airbnbs. And so I understand, and I love that you are working on that. And I thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have to always find that happy balance. It's a shame sometimes in politics and issues, things go so far to one way, so far to the other way, and got to get that pendulum swinging a little bit in the middle. So it's trying to find that equal balance so everybody kind of gets happy. You're not going to make everybody happy. I get bombarded, hey, how are you going to vote on this bill? And I tell everybody, well, half my friends like it, the other half of my friends don't like it. Either way, I'm going to vote with my friends. So, they don't, But thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that.
I put up with the abuse, and I thank you so much for your
Well, thank you so much, Senator Burley.
Thank you
for
very much.
being
God
here.
bless you.
We appreciate you. Yeah. We can always count on Senator Burley to do what's right for Lake Havasu City, and we appreciate his leadership at the state all these years. Just a couple more items, and then we'll turn over and answer any questions that you may have of us. The Teen Break is making its return to Lake Havasu City. This is a long-standing celebrated event for our teens that are in middle school and high school down at Rotary Park. If you are interested, we do need volunteers, though, to make that happen. So if you could please go to the city website and sign up. That's lhcaz.gov. Sign up to be a volunteer. We'd love to have you down there. The youth love it. They have a great time. It's a bunch of carnival games and sports and food and recreation and beach, and it's a nice, safe alternative for our youth here in Lake Havasu City. So please join us down there at Teen Break. And then also, if you're a park user, don't get mad at us. We do have to close the park for a couple of days in certain sections. Not all of Rotary Park, but certain sections of the park are closed and reserved just for our teens in that area. And then finally, we have a couple of veteran updates. We have Vietnam Veterans Day on March 29th. We're doing a free Vietnam Veterans event out at the Rodeo Grounds at Sarah Park. We invite all veterans to come. They will be able to get a free lunch with our partners at the Elks Club. And it's going to be just a great time to celebrate veterans, celebrate Vietnam Veterans Day. And we invite you to be there at 10:30 is when it starts, and it'll go till the food is gone. And then we have a really special treat at City Hall throughout the month of March. The Mojave Military Museum has put a beautiful display of military memorabilia in our lobby. We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. We invite citizens to come down, check out all of the exhibits that are in the lobby, and enjoy that through the month of March. And now with that, I will turn it over to our citizens. Councilmember Lane is going to carry a mic around, so just raise your hand, but we have a first question in the back here.
Yeah, I was wondering, you're going to run for mayor again?
That's correct, yes.
How do you feel that that you're a responsible mayor, that when you don't even answer constituents' complaints about speeding on the road? I've written you a 5-page certified letter, as well as you, Jess, and I've gotten no response whatsoever. Angler Drive from Avalon to Sandwood is a speed trap, and I never see a police officer there. The first time I've seen a police officer in a month is standing next to one right now. We need something done there, and you've ignored me this is the fourth now coffee with the mayor. The first one you told me, oh, no problem, we're going to take care of it because that's an easy thing to do, and then you ignored me for 2.5 years. I was wondering, what makes that a successful run at governor, or you're probably you want to run for higher office, if you can't even solve a speeding problem on a street. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. They're going 45 miles an hour down that street, and it's just from those two streets. I'm in the middle of that street, and it's a curve, very narrow street. And I'm standing in my driveway a lot. So, you know, I don't understand why we can't get something done. I've talked to Jess about it. He says, no, we can't put up any signs. No, we can't put up any bumps. No, we can't put up. So they put a trailer there for, 4 days, and it works for 4 days. And then as soon as it's gone, a motorcycle comes by at 70 miles an hour. And I'm not joking. You know, it's ridiculous. I'm telling you where the criminals are. I'm telling you what time they come by, and you're ignoring it. I don't understand why you are ignoring me for 2.5 years. I've got a letter right here. I'll give it to Cameron because you don't seem to respond. And maybe Cameron can do something about it. But you've got to do something about the speed. You know, I've got $1 million invested in this property, and it just makes it uncomfortable to stand in your front yard and have a guy on a motorcycle drive by at 45, 50 miles an hour and flip you off. The last time I told you that, you said, oh, at least you know you're number one. That's not funny, Cal. That's not funny. It's disgusting,
Sir,
and I
so
need somebody to do something about it.
Yeah, with all due respect, I got the point, and you have been talking. You've been talking to me about this for 3 years, and we have done things, including signage, increased patrols in the area, and it's just never good enough for you. And so you talk about me ignoring you for the last 2.5 years, but the last communication that we've had was a letter that we addressed those issues. So, I'm sorry that it's not meeting your needs, but we'll take another look at it, as we do with all of the traffic complaints that we receive in Lake Havasu City. And
we phone and call your constituents and say, I'm working on it. You didn't.
If you called my office and left your number, I would call you. We've talked about this several times, but thank you for the comment and the question. Councilmember Lane, next.
He was next. He had his hand.
Yes.
Actually, I have two questions that are related to money. Why was the Wildan study so far off target? And how do you keep the PED demographic study up to date after you first do it?
Excellent. Yeah, great question. So we'll start with the PED. They're doing the housing study that we talked about earlier in our conversation this morning. And the question is, how do we keep that up to date? This is using an economist that is well known and well respected in the state of Arizona. Elliot Pollack will be putting together the data for this. And we will have to go back on a regular basis to keep that updated. But it'll give us the basis starting point. And so going forward, it won't be as intensive to keep it updated. And hopefully what we're updating it with is new housing stock that's coming in the community, so getting those updates into that. Wildan is a company that we hired to take a look at what the water and wastewater rates should be or needed to be with the expiration of the IDD. So the Irrigation and Drainage District, which was the quasi-first government in Lake Havasu City, that was set to expire when the vote of the people in 1978 to incorporate Lake Havasu City, but it had debt. And so councils prior to us would refinance the debt because it contributed about $5.7 million in property tax to run the fund. And so that is set to expire in June 30th of this year now. And so Wildan helped us go through that. The city council went through a variety of different phases on what this utility rate study would look like. The very first thing that was brought to us and the council voted for was to do a cost for delivery service on our water and wastewater system. So made sense. Would use our current use of service, like how much does it cost to deliver water to a particular type of business property or real estate area, and how much does it cost to get rid of it? So when you flush the toilet, what's that cost? So what does it cost a restaurant? What does it cost a single family home? What does it cost an RV park, a hotel, so on and so forth? Which made a whole lot of sense to me. And that was the will of the council at that point. So Wildan then took their study and they went through and used cost of delivery service modeling to put the prices together. When the prices came together, the council voted on a recommendation after many, many public hearings, many discussions with citizens. And when it came out, we realized because of our multifamily users brought it to the table that there was some issues with the multifamily. Not against what the policy or the direction council gave with cost of delivery, but with what was our current practice and the understanding of me. And I'm just ascertaining from the conversations from council what each of us us believed was happening in that multifamily area. So on October 26th, we had Willdan come back out, give some additional options to the council for what that might look like so we could address the multifamily issue. And when they came out, we had several, I mean, it was a very lengthy meeting that I believe we had 3 or 4 motions that were presented and failed for a majority vote. And then we finally got a motion that we could all live with. And what that is that was to reduce the base charge for the multifamily so that it would not impact these developments that pay through HOAs or things like that. It was a really a large issue, and I'll talk to all the specifics with you if you want one-on-one or give me a call and we can talk over any of those details. But so when they came back out, Willdan had to charge for that. That wasn't in our original scope of services for that. And so we paid them for that service, and then we will allow for these rates to occur for the next year, and then we'll reevaluate what that looks like. You might have read in the newspaper over the last week, sometimes I lose track of the news cycle and what that looks like, that the water fund is down in what our projections were. When the budget was created with the projections based on the rate study as was adopted in July, not as was altered in October 26th meeting. So does that make sense? So that's that when they say they're down, we knew they were down based on the action we took on October 26th, but the forecast was based on what we approved in July. Certainly we're here to serve our citizens, and that was a big need for our citizens at the time to address it. Let's understand it, take it a step back, see where these rates go and what that looks like, because there were some additional components to that rate study. One was the fund that they were using was the projected fund, not the actual, because we were months in advance when we were doing it, so you had to use a projection. Actual came in a little bit higher than what we were projecting. So lots of moving parts and lots of moving numbers, but we are so focused on getting a correct study that will allow our system to be maintained into the future. Is there a follow-up question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Since both water and sewer are enterprise funds, can you shift funds back and forth between them?
No, they are enterprise funds of their own. So water is a fund, and then wastewater is a fund, and they can't be shifted.
And I guess that's a good point in terms of talking about rates and the system and the funds and all that stuff too. What the city is responsible for is operating a not-for-profit, a water system and a not-for-profit sewer system. So we want to generate the dollars needed to pay for the maintenance of the system, and that's it. So that's where the fees and looking at the base rates and all the different categories that are out there and why that's so important. So, yeah.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to thank both of you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I have a,
Thank you.
that's true. I have a personal opinion here, but we have an off-road highway known as Lake Havasu Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that ever going to be fixed?
The pavement on Lake Havasu Avenue?
Unbelievably rough.
What-
Really
on
bad.
the north side by like Palo
On the
Verde?
north side, yeah, up by
yeah.
the county offices. I swear to God, you're
Yeah.
off-road when you drive through there.
Yes.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of bad for cars. you
Sure.
know.
Yeah, that's
So-
a great point. So Lake Havasu Avenue, we've done, obviously Mesquite to Swanson has been redone. We've done from South Palo Verde to almost Industrial. And we've done a patchwork in front of the London Bridge Liquors area that was really, really bad. Yeah, so we did that. And when I say patch, we're not talking like a little pothole. We're talking like a big old swath of a patch. And then we can start looking at that area headed to North Palo Verde. So thank you for that. And duly noted, we'll check with our roads team.
It's 100% on our radar. We talk about it quite a bit. And then when the mayor talked earlier about the conversations that the mayor and the council had at this last planning session, or annual planning session, about taking some of these general fund dollars and adding to the HERF fund to take care of the streets more so than what we do normally on a year-to-year basis. Those are projects that we're talking about.
Is that going to be difficult to do, or are we going to get that done soon?
That'll be part of this budget process coming up. And so we're going to have, well, no, I mean, I couldn't believe this week when I saw March 1st on the date. I was like, where's time going? But all the, from my perspective, as far as the budget process, that's all going to be it's in my office this month. And then we're going to be taking it to council in April, end of April, I think it is. So we'll have a couple of work sessions and invite you to come out and maybe be a part of those conversations. We'll be talking about that very topic as one of the topics in those. It'll be end of April. I don't know if anybody has a date that could look up in terms of that the first budget work session. We could figure that one out for you. We'll have one more coffee before that takes place, so we'll make sure I get that date at that time, if not before. But yeah, those are the conversations. Now is where we plan and prepare for how the dollars are going to be utilized from July 1st this year to June 30th the following year, and those are some projects there.
I'm sorry for this, but does the windfall that we've been getting in our tax base have anything to do with paying?
Sure. So the question is in terms of the windfall that comes in, and we put out monthly financial reporting to the community, and the newspaper picks it up and talks about the windfall of all the dollars that we're receiving, record-breaking. But the other half of the article is missing, where it talks about the fact that our costs are also increasing. The cost of materials, the cost of chemicals, the cost of road projects is also increasing. So I keep on scrolling down, but I get to the end and I don't see that last half of that article. But yeah, so when we talk about general fund dollars that we've received over and above in sales tax, we're looking at doing something with those types of projects. Yeah.
We have a saying in North Dakota where I'm from, use concrete or it's your own asphalt.
I did not hear her say that. I did not, I swear. She
And,
wrote it down.
and so we have,
That's been a concrete decision, though.
and our state is known for its oil and the pollution of our clean water. Can we use gray water here? Can you recycle that water from new developments into gray water, and they can use that water for other things?
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
What areas do you do it in of town?
So all of our gray water, but it does all of our parks, our golf courses, all of those areas. It irrigates all of those. And we use all of our treated wastewater on those fronts. So if you are down at a park and you ever see like the purple pipes, at Rotary Park, you might see like purple covers and pipes. Those are all of the effluent water systems running through.
And I live by the golf course, but I don't have purple pipes.
The golf course, the water is delivered to the golf course. All the water they use for landscaping, that's all grade A.
Need to drain it there?
I don't. So the question is, a couple questions that are off the microphone.
We deliver effluent water to the golf courses. They, through their system, operate. So they wouldn't be purple pipes up there, and we don't charge.
We charge the golf course.
The golf course
The golf
gets
course
charged for it.
pays for the delivery of the effluent.
So I'd have to replumb my sewer to get.
Oh, we don't have
for-
residential effluent at this point,
Yeah,
but that
yeah.
would be a conversation possibly in the future.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, see ya.
Good morning,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Mayor, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you.
I live on Swanson Southwest Retreats, and I have an issue with Republic. They come to take our garbage at 4:30 in the morning. And they beep, 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 and then clunk, 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 clunk. And if the residents on that end are woken up, then they go to the other end, the same thing. Beep, beep. And I have called Republic on the 4th of February and explained this issue, and she opened a dispute, Jalissa did, and said someone would call me. I have a case number for your reference. On the 11th, I talked to Lindsay. She said no action has been taken, but we'll escalate it. On the 23rd, I talked to Isaac, and he can't believe no one called me. But they'll call me that day or the next day. And that's where we sit. Now, I oftentimes exercise in the exercise room, and on the same days, they pick up garbage at Sherlock Holmes, and they go, which is only like a block from us, and they go there the same days at 8:30 in the morning. I recognize we have hot weather and they want to get out early in the summertime. I recognize we don't want garbage trucks when it's real busy, but please, no more 4:30. I cannot get Republic to respond, so that's my complaint.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so just for the record, we don't own Republic. We have a contract with them to do the service, but after this meeting, if you can stop by, see either Jess, myself, or Anthony, if you want to raise your hand in the back, give us that detail information, and we'll help facilitate a conversation for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to say in defense of the traffic on Avalon and Angler. I've traveled that for 10 years every week, and I know that it's 25 miles an hour, so I do that. I very seldom see anybody try to pass me, but I have had them like move, move, move. But I know that I've seen policemen on the next street over. I've seen them over there on Kiowa. So you can't be there 24 hours. You know, a policeman can't sit there but if you know the rules, go by them.
Yeah, so when it comes to traffic, and great point, Luann, it's, traffic, when you talk to citizens about what the roads are, it's, everyone's going 50 or 60 or 70 miles an hour, which I believe that could be occurring or might not. But those speed trailers that we put out, they also are data collectors. So we know the number of traffic that's coming through, what the speed is, and the aggregate. And on average, when those speed trailers are out, it's only 5 miles an hour over the speed limit on average. So I'm not saying that's acceptable either, but just to give some reassurance, and I'm not saying that there's that one yahoo that goes to work at 60 miles an hour every day on your road that doesn't cause you frustration, but we are monitoring it and working that through. So thank you for that point.
And if I can add to that a little bit too, because we had that conversation, and it's a difficult one, because what's the solution here too? And it's not just, it's not just Angler and those areas, but it's throughout the community. There's certain roads that get traveled. There's the shortcuts in Havasu, right? And they get traveled much more so than others, and you see, speeding that's out there. We can't have an officer in all those neighborhoods. We try our best to get out there and to do just that. But some of the solutions that might come up, as far as let's see, we need speed bumps. Can you imagine if we had speed bumps throughout the community, wherever you went? So the response to the gentleman earlier was, yeah, we hear you. We can't put speed bumps up, and it's just my street. No, it'd have to be for everybody. This is a community with similar issues that are out there. So we understand, we do our best, we do the speed trailers, we collect the data, and our PD is great, but they need more resources too. We need more officers out there as well. So,
yes.
I just have a public announcement. My name is Sandy DeMarteau, and I am with MCC, Mojave Community College. I am the new community coordinator for community education. And we have a new class that's coming up. It's astronomy and stargazing. It starts in April. It's going to be amazing. It's going to go through the lunar eclipse, so you might want to come and check that out. Classes are very reasonable. We also have computer classes for everybody. Everything's very reasonable for you to get involved with it. Just come and see me. And if you want to facilitate your passion, become an instructor, come and see me as well.
Good one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Lane, we'll get back over to you in a few minutes. Yes.
Gotta give everybody a try.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate my turn. Hi, Facebook. Hello. I have several questions for you, and I'm sorry. Not sorry, but I'll try to put them all out at once. First question is, will you light the bridge up for more than 5 minutes in honor of Ukraine? Second question is, how many people know that the city is running a pilot bus program? And right now, this was their first week in having the pilot bus program. When I asked you about it, you sent me a message and said that you guys had events informing the public about it, but every single stop that I ever stopped at that the bus is supposed to stop at, the businesses of those establishments did not even know that the city started a bus program again, nor did they know the fact that this week it was free, and it's free for during the pilot use. Companies like the Salvation Army, which one of the stops is just up a block from the Salvation Army. The bus system really does serve the downtown area. There are a lot of places where businesses and residents will be helped. Funny thing is, on the map, it says that it's one of the stops is for the view, but it's also across the street from the Hidden Palms and across the street from almost the back end of the bowling alley. And it stops at Smith, the Hampton Inn. None of the stops are marked. There's nothing except 2 stops that say, look at me, I'm a bus stop. So nobody knows that it's available. So how can they use it if they don't know it's available?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for your question. So pilot program might be a little misleading of a word. So the bus service that we're offering in Lake Havasu City, we offer a couple of different varieties. This is the third and final phase of implementation. And right now there's not a bus sign identifying numbers or a lot of outreach because we're trying to ensure that we have the right timing, we have the right location. Do we need to move 10 feet up or 10 feet back? So right now, although we love people to ride it, we don't need hundreds of people riding it because we're trying to make sure that we understand what it is and how to operate it and what that looks like. So once we have all of those components figured out, there will be identifying markers for where the bus stops are at, and there'll be a lot more outreach on what that's going to look like for us. When it comes to the lighting of the bridge, we're having a few technical issues with the lighting of the bridge, and you may have seen it for 5 minutes here or there. Actually, Jerry, myself, some folks from IT and Public Works were down there the night before last, I believe, trying to figure out some of the components. We're getting a little bit closer to it, and so once we can have control again and understand how that works, we'll be able to put those pieces together. But right now, it's app-based technology. So you're supposed to be able to change the lights from your phone or from some device, and it just wasn't working correctly. But rest assured, staff's on it. We got some solutions that are coming through, and then we can take a look at that. So hopefully those answers your questions. And
again, on the transit, thanks for bringing that up, Bonnie. It's these conversations that occur in the public that to bring more awareness that's out there. We've been running, the city's been running and slowly kind of expanding the 3 levels of transit service that's out there. And so what we're trying to do is we have a general idea of where we think the stop should be. We have a general idea of who's going to ride, to utilize the transit system. But we also want to be able to be flexible. So it's a soft approach. It's free for a month, and based on the data and the conversations we have with the users and the riders, they're going to say, well, maybe if you picked us up over there instead, or this stop's not being used, and that stop's being used quite a bit, or so this is it's kind of like a data collection phase for us to get some feedback from the users, so then we can establish something and then get those and then spend the dollars to put up the signage and so forth. So.
How did you? But you learned about it, and there's other riders. We're watching the data on it
Article
right
in the
now.
paper was out there as well too, and at the same time, a public service announcement. My turn is we need transit drivers. Anybody want to apply for a job with the city? Well, I got 3. We need more.
Okay. Yes.
The Lake Havasu Pickleball Association is having their annual pickleball tournament on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of this month. And this year we'll have over 120 participants on each day. And this is our 9th annual, but we started 10 years ago at the Aquatic Center, and we had 34 people in that tournament. And so this time there's going to be and it's because of the new 8 courts we got, and we have another 4 coming soon, I hope. And then the Lake Havasu Pickleball Association will have donated to the city by the time the whole project's done about $500,000. So
thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, we're starting to round our time out, but we'll get to these questions as well. But the microphone will be in just a second.
Good morning, Cal. My wife and I have been here since 1974, so we've seen needless to say, a tremendous amount of growth. We hear expansion as far as residential, commercial, the infrastructure. Is there any talk on the table about another hospital to go along with the growth?
Yeah, so when it comes to the hospital, like Havasu City has had an interesting history when it comes to hospitals. We've at one point had 2. We've had 2 by different operators. We've then had a surgery-based center, and then a hospital, and then we've had hospitals. So we've had a long history with hospitals. But as the demand would relate to that, we could look at future medical expansion. We do work collaboratively with Mojave County Department of Public Health, tracking data, as well as the local hospital and the regional hospitals going through. And so we look at all of those different pieces, and we're certainly open to it. There is no discussion to have a community hospital where the city operates it, but we certainly are open to conversations and would welcome anything that would serve our citizens from a medical perspective going forward. There are some additional improvements then on the veteran side that will be coming forth soon, which will assist our citizens that are veterans. And then I've heard some additional discussion in the private sector on micro hospitals or micro medical facilities going forward. So
there's a permit in with the city for a imaging center, clinic type of thing. A really large investment looks like over at the shops. Something like $7.5 million in tenant improvements for that space out there, out by the movie theater. So I'm really eager to see what that looks like. That'd be the question was, is it public or private? It's a private, looks to be a private facility. All we don't know now is that they've submitted a building permit, and yeah, eager to see how that unfolds, and we need more of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll take one last question, then our time is going to wrap up, but we will be here afterwards to answer any additional questions as well.
In reference to the bus routes, as I understand and as I remember from reading in the paper when this was first announced, that it does not include anything on the north side?
No, there's three different components of our transit. So we're not talking just bus. There will be a bus, if you want to talk traditional bus, from the Mesquite downtown area depot out to Walmart and the shops out there. Then if you, the city's been broken into 3 zones. You can use direct service within your zone, or they'll take you over to the transfer center on Mesquite, and then from there you would jump onto a different route-based system. So it sounds a little difficult, but it really isn't once you get into it. So there's 3 zones if you want to use transit within your neighborhood, and then there's other zones that get our citizens to critical areas that they need to go: shopping, medical, the mall, school sites, Mojave Community College, ASU are all part of that component. So
yeah, we have as we roll this out, it's a kind of a different approach than we had in previous years. Havasu used to have a bus system 10 years ago or so. At that point, I think there was like 80 different bus stops throughout the community, and then got into the neighborhoods. It just wasn't cost effective. So and the program went away. So the strategy now is try to do something a little bit more cutting edge and a little bit more taxpayer friendly, which would allow for, there's 3 components within the services we have. The Flex is set up and geared for those that need a little extra help in terms of wheelchair or disabled and so forth. Then we have the Direct, which is what the mayor's talking about. You can literally go on the Uber app, and you'll see one of the options there is to take the Lake Havasu City ride for $5 if you stay within with that zone. We got families that are utilizing that service to get their kids to school or get to work, and it's a direct route, just like you would see in another shuttle or a Uber service. And then the third component is what Ms. Toy was talking about, is that now it's the bridge, and we're rolling that service out, which is going to have those bus stops that are out there, but they're going to be contained within the certain areas that are the busiest. So the first rollout is going to be in the downtown area, and we're going to see how that works and see if it gets utilized. And then we'll continue to have conversations, and then maybe we'll get a route that maybe we'll get out to the shops, and maybe a route that'll eventually get down to the on the south side. So at that point, within the community, you're not getting picked up, a block down the road, but you can get picked up through the direct service, and then take down to the hub in the downtown, and then get on routes, and then be able to make your way through the community that way. So that's kind of the design of what we're trying to roll out little by little, and we'll get there. We'll have some bumps and bruises, but we need to be flexible in terms of what our residents want. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do now. But honestly, we don't have enough drivers, and it's a new type of a process. So this is what we'd kind of call it like a soft rollout, just to start that service and get some initial feedback. So it'll grow, it'll get better. Yeah.
And the cost for this new bus system is not costing us any more out of the general fund than we previously did with our transit system before. So we are able to augment that with grant funds, that if we weren't to take those grant funds, they would get redistributed to other towns throughout the state of Arizona. So we're glad to be able to use those transit funds for our community. And again, there are users of the system. Those that need to use the system are using the system. We have a really good track on those citizens that need it the most. And then once we have full driver capacity and understand exactly where everything's going to be, we certainly will market it and let people know what it is about. So a couple of things before we'll do some trivia, and then we'll end our time. But I do want to thank Jerry Bracamonte for her efforts to organize all this. We also have a familiar face returning, Bill and his wife Marilyn. Thank you in the control room. Those of you watching at home, Bill and Marilyn are volunteers of the city and do a lot of work to ensure that this program that you're watching on Channel 4 right now can come alive and be a part of it. And then also Steve, who's with us every week every month to make this happen. So thank you, Steve, in the control room as well. All right, a couple of trivia. Who was the first city manager? And it wasn't this guy. Yeah. Charles Royale was the first city manager that was appointed by the council back when we incorporated in 1978. The Veterans Treatment Court was established in 2013 in Lake Havasu City. Our city Facebook page was created for the first time in 2010, was the city Facebook page. And then the number of code enforcement complaints in 2021 was 795, and those are complaints that were actually logged. There's several hundreds of complaints that come in that Denise is able just to handle on a telephone call and are never even logged or tracked. So 795 that she was able to work through. That number was 752 in 2020. And then the very first Lake Havasu City Council meeting met on October 10th, 1978, and it was at the Roadway Inn. And the Roadway Inn's not even here anymore. There is a Roadway Inn, but not the one that they met at. It was the one on Acoma up by the Senior Center. So thank you for the honor of allowing me to serve you as mayor of Lake Havasu City. We'll be here afterwards to answer any questions that you may have. Have a great month, and we'll see you on April 1st, and that's not a joke, for our next coffee. Take care.